When my son Nathaniel was 3 years old, we were living in Los Angeles. We had a jazz service, and there was this retired rabbi. His name was Rabbi Stephen Carr Rubens, and he played the drums. And my husband would always take Nathaniel to that service, and they'd sit right next to the drum kit. And Rabbi Stephen Carr Rubens would always take the time to talk with Nathaniel. One particular night after services, he handed my son his drum brushes. Nathaniel carried those brushes around like they were the most sacred objects in the world. At home, he would pretend to be a cantor, singing the music, moving his little arms like he was leading the whole congregation. 3 years later in Miami, my regular drummer got sick right before a Shabbat service. Nathaniel was 6 years old with 1 year of drum lessons under his belt, and I asked him to fill in. Watching him play that night, I saw something I hadn't expected. He was listening to the room, sensing when to lift the energy and when to hold back. He could hang with the adult musicians. That moment confirmed my belief that children don't just belong in worship, they can lead it, they can shape it, they are essential to it. A few weeks ago, we launched the Shir Squad. Shir means song, so it's a squad of singers. It's our kids' choir. How many here are anyone in the Shir Squad in the room tonight? Yeah, a few of you, nice. Last week, I got a text from one of the moms, and she wrote to me, "You know what's pretty awesome? Watching your kid color and listening to her softly hum and sing some of the songs from Shir Squad. I'm not even sure she realizes she's doing it. Just love this. Thank you for bringing this back into our lives." That's what happens when we make room for every generation. Judaism stops being something we observe from a distance. It becomes something that we can live, something we can sing, something that hums in the background of our daily lives without us even realizing it. And yet, we live in a culture that is so obsessed with youth, but not like really tiny youth, some sort of 20s teen youth, that we've made our elders invisible. And simultaneously, we've treated our littlest people like disruptions rather than leaders. We've let generational differences divide us spiritually. I've been watching the kibbutz concept experience a renaissance in Israel. Young Israelis are rediscovering what their grandparents knew, that organizing life around mutual responsibility creates connections that endure. The original kibbutzim, we know, were agricultural, but their principles transcend farming. When everyone contributes and everyone belongs, we have this power to build something that lasts. My calling as clergy is to grow a community that replaces silos with shared life across the generations. I dream of a TBA where Judaism becomes a meaningful, essential part of daily life. I envision Temple Brith Achim as a sacred neighborhood shaped in the spirit of a kibbutz, an intergenerational gathering of people united by a common mission. In a kibbutz, everyone's contribution sustains the whole, and the whole sustains everyone else. Our mission? To create a sacred neighborhood where we lovingly raise one another's children and we can share in the Jewish journeys of one another. While other houses of worship struggle with declining membership, we become a place where every generation discovers they are essential, where we don't just prepare children for their B'nai Mitzvah, but we prepare families for a lifetime of Jewish living that is joyful and is relevant. Here, seekers and builders come together to create Judaism in real time, drawing strength from shared responsibility, finding joy in one another's growth, Generations shape each other's future. Prayer and music open pathways of belonging. Creativity transforms tradition into living practice. But what does this actually look like? It means spirituality, we live together in community. It means authentic relationships where we truly know one another. It means support networks where people show up for one another with generosity. It means every person is accepted and valued for who they are. And it means we share a common purpose, not just raising one another's children, but raising one another, helping everyone grow into their best self, challenging one another to be who we're meant to be. We celebrate together, we mourn together, we are companions through the holy and the ordinary moments of life. My colleague, Rabbi Laura Gella, teaches us that Jewish tradition's concept of Lador Vador, from generation to generation, must evolve into generation with generation, because wisdom truly flows both ways. When we open ourselves up to this bi-directional flow, we discover that learning doesn't go from being old to young, but young to old and everything in between, creating a web of wisdom that strengthens everyone. The extraordinary thing is that here at TBA, we're already creating the foundation. Just 1 year ago, the Kaiserman JCC preschool joined our building. Now, every day, young children fill our hallways with sweetness and laughter, creating even more opportunities for intergenerational connection. Hayden Brown was a madrich. He's in college now. He was a madrich, a teacher's assistant in our religious school. He noticed that when teachers wanted to take kids outside, they had to schlep chairs, and when we wanted to pray outdoors, we didn't have a sacred space to gather. So for his Eagle Scout project, Hayden decided to transform a deteriorated area into a beautiful outdoor sanctuary. But he couldn't do it alone. He needed leaders from our congregation to advocate for his dream. Steve Koffs shared his building expertise. Cheryl Carmel became his advocate to the board and management team, and together they helped turn Hayden's vision into a reality. In August, we dedicated that space with S'mores Havdalah event. So many people came to celebrate his achievement. That is Lador Vador, generation with generation, our boomers sharing their wisdom so that a Gen Z's vision could become a reality. Every past president I speak to steps up naturally into the role of a wise elder. They carry decades of institutional wisdom and real care for our success. It feels like you have a row of cheerleaders who also remember the playbook. That is why our current president, Cheryl Carmel, and our immediate past president, Jan Biros, and I are launching a President's Council, so former leaders remain mentors and collaborators as we plan what comes next. That is Lador Vador, generation with generation, when institutional memory becomes living mentorship. Rabbi Gladstein, our new religious school director, is a weaver and an artist who understands the power of visual communication. She secured a free nonprofit Canva account, and she's mentoring some of us on technology and design. She's our millennial, bringing fresh tools and updating the way our school receives information. That is Lador Vador, generation with generation, translating wisdom across the ages so our message can reach all the people where they are. Aries Sarinsky is our music teacher and our cantorial intern. They grew up here at TBA, and now they're inspiring the next generation. Kids look at this Gen Z leader and think, I want to be like them one day. That's the power of seeing someone a few years older leading prayer and music. And in less than a month, our Shear Squad choir has grown from 6 to 20 kids. At every service, we share what we're grateful for. It's my favorite part of being at TBA. And Ezra Happ, one of our Shear Squad religious school kids, always breaks my heart wide open. He says things like, "Thank you to the Cantor and the rabbi for leading this most fabulous service. I really enjoyed it, and I never want it to end. I'm grateful for my family, this community, all the teachers at TBA, and for God. I really love being Jewish." That's Lador Vador, generation with generation, when a child's gratitude reminds us why we do this work, and their joy becomes our joy. Each generation has gifts to give. Sometimes those gifts overlap across age groups. A boomer and a millennial might be natural teachers. Members of Gen X and Z might be bridge builders. But what matters is this: we need each other. We need the elders who remember where we've been and how we survived. We need the pragmatic connectors who translate across styles and hold tension. We need those system shapers who design the on-ramps and tell our story. We need the young people who ask the questions that make us more honest. We need those little children who remember that prayer is embodied and play is sacred. None of us can build this sacred neighborhood alone. Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King. If God is our parent, then we are all siblings. Siblings across generations, races, and beliefs. And we know that families aren't easy. We argue, we disagree, we drive each other crazy. We may not always understand one another, but we're there to support each other. Our task as siblings in this community is to get to know one another, to learn one another's love languages, and to care for one another. Kol Nidre calls us back to one another. Tonight, we annul the vow of separateness and choose to live as a family, intergenerational, multicultural, interfaith, and interconnected. But here's what I need from you. Starting tomorrow morning, when you walk in or out of the sanctuary, have one real conversation with someone from a different generation. Ask them a question, maybe one like this. What's one thing you've learned that you wish most people understood? If you're younger, find an elder. Discover what wisdom they've acquired through their decades of living. If you're older, find a younger person and learn how they see how the world is emerging. Everyone, stop making each other invisible. Our board has created a governance task force under Michael Galvin's leadership that will do some visioning work to help us listen and dream together. We want you to be part of that dreaming, to talk to one another, talk with me, share what matters most to you, tell us what would make this feel like home, and throughout the year, we will pilot new initiatives based on what we hear. Past President Rhonda Hager shared her deepest hope with me. She said that she dreams that when all of our children grow up and leave for college, they'll look back at their time at Temple Brith Achim and say, "That was my home. That's where I belonged." That dream becomes a reality when all of us make it our sacred work. This is our teshuvah, our returning to seeing ourselves as responsible for raising one another, for honoring each other's wisdom, for creating a community where everyone is essential. When you leave here tonight, I want you to feel this. I am part of something really special, and I can't wait to build this and see where it grows. Singing with kids makes us all smile. Doing silly hand motions during prayers reminds us that joy is a spiritual practice, and learning the historical stories from our elders and boomers who were here when this place started in 1971 helps us to understand what we came from and the legacy that we are building together. The revolution starts here. The revolution starts with us. And tomorrow morning, it starts with one conversation. Gemar Tov.